How much money do you think Ohioans pay in taxpayer dollars every year because of drug overdoses?
Can't even imagine. I'm sure it's a pretty penny, though.
$4.9 million every single year.
See that there have been people who have actually started to come in to the room where Governor Kasich will be speaking here in the next 45 minutes to an hour or so. And if you take a look at a lot of the people who are in here holding signs, you can see that there's a sign that says gold. There's also a sign that says white. And this is signifying where people who have tickets to hear tonight's State of the State will be sitting tonight. Now, the governor is expected to start talking tonight at 7 o'clock, and the governor has several different issues he's likely to touch base on. One of the big issues the governor is expected to talk about is job creation here in the Buckeye State. Now, I talked on the phone with his press secretary, and he says that job creation in Ohio has been a major thing and a major topic that we're going to likely hear more on tonight. A few other topics Kasich is expected to talk about tonight includes changes to taxes here in the Buckeye State. The big thing Kasich has been pushing is eliminating or lowering income taxes for a lot of small businesses and lowering income taxes for everyone here in the Buckeye State. Another topic includes changes to the state's school funding formula, which could be a good thing for some districts, while some other districts say that may not be a good thing because it may mean less funding from the state. Now, also, we got a statement from the Ohio Democratic Party before tonight's meeting. Now, they are saying that they are summarizing the State of the State address with 4 words: trickle down doesn't work. That's coming from the state's Democratic Party tonight. And they are also saying that the governor's latest tax plan would actually mean more money for the average Ohioan, about an extra $122 tonight. So coming up tonight at 10 and 11 o'clock, we're going to hear more from what the governor has to say in his State of the State address, and also we'll hear from Valley leader Senator Joe Schiavone. Talk about a convoluted Ohio Supreme Court ruling. The city of Monroe Falls, which is an Akron suburb, essentially lost its case against Beck Energy on the right to drill within the city limits. In a 4-3 vote, the justices voted to strike down the city's ordinances which regulate oil and gas development in this specific case.
It entered a decision that raises almost as many questions as it answers.
In a narrow Ohio Supreme Court ruling, justices uphold state laws that have been in place for nearly 10 years, which gives the state more power than local government on where oil and gas companies can drill. Attorney Alan Wenger says there are still a lot of unknowns with the ruling.
The major question is the availability or application of zoning in a municipality to regulate oil and gas development.
In Monroe Falls, Beck Energy has been drilling inside of the city limits. They say they took the proper steps before drilling, like getting approval from neighbors who are within 500 feet of the drilling sites.
People seem to think we just run in, like a bull in the china shop, and that's not it at all. There's a process and a way, and it's done correctly.
One of the justices, William O'Neill, who voted against Tuesday's ruling, says the oil and gas industry has gotten its way, and local control of drilling locations decisions has been unceremoniously taken away from the citizens of Ohio. Under this ruling, a drilling permit could be granted in exquisite residential neighborhoods. Local zoning dating back to 1920 be damned. At the same time, the decision is only specific to Monroe Falls ordinances.
The law has worked for 10 years, and we're very pleased with the decision.
Which means it could take another Supreme Court ruling to decide how things would be decided in other communities. And Lauren, that's something that we'll definitely keep an eye on about how this would progress in the future. But something else, though, this kind of bucks the trend that's been going on over the last few years in Pennsylvania and in New York over the last 2 to 3 years. They've voted in favor of the local communities, unlike what the Ohio Supreme Court did.
I'm putting my big mouth out there to see if somebody will listen to, listen to this. This is ridiculous. All of a sudden, they want to go ship us elsewhere.
27 investigates hundreds of pharmacies across Ohio will start turning people away in less than 2 weeks because of major changes to the state Medicaid system. We got tipped off on this story from local lawmakers and frustrated patients. I investigated and got answers for you from the insurance companies and state agencies.
It's just ridiculous. I have a lot of prescriptions that'll just make a hardship for me.
Keith Clark and thousands of Medicaid patients across Ohio will have to go to a new pharmacy to get their prescriptions filled.
My pharmacy is 1 mile away. They want me to go 8 miles away.
The changes are for patients who go through the United Healthcare Managed Medicaid Organizations program. The changes only impact United Healthcare patients. Starting March 1st, at least 800 pharmacies across Ohio will not be able to fill prescriptions under the new network plan. According to the Ohio Pharmacists Association, the Department of Medicaid doesn't have any plans to stop the changes United Healthcare is making. Patients say the move is restrictive and will make it more difficult for those who don't have access to transportation.
They sent me a letter indicating that they are forcing me to choose a different pharmacy, and I don't want to go elsewhere.
In response, United Healthcare sent a statement saying, quote, as part of our ongoing efforts to ensure Medicaid beneficiaries have access to quality pharmacies that offer affordable medications, we are making changes to the network. We are working with those individuals who are affected by the changes to ensure they receive the medications they need, end quote. Senior Vice President of Pharmacy Operations for Hometown Pharmacies, Ron McDermott, says UHC's claim the changes will help with affordable prescriptions doesn't add up.
That doesn't make any sense. Why would the Medicaid system shove them to a pharmacy that's going to charge them more, or charge the Medicaid system more than what we charge them?
There is a silver lining for patients, though. If they wish to change to another managed Medicaid provider, they can do so through the end of April. State Senator Joe Schiavone says his office has been working to find a solution to help patients, but he's not sure if a solution will come soon enough.
There has to be some way that everybody can get together on this. Now, I'm not sure if there is.
For now, patients across the state are working to find new pharmacies or make changes with their current insurance company.
We want to get our voice heard.
Petitions across the state have been signed and currently are being signed to show patient support behind the 800-plus pharmacies across Ohio.
He definitely didn't talk about the possibility of running for president. It was definitely all focusing here in Ohio and on the Buckeye State. If you take a look behind me, though, you can see it's pretty empty in here right now. Earlier tonight, though, that wasn't the case. It was a packed house. There were about 1,259 people in here, to be exact, for the people who were out here to hear the governor's State of the State address here in Wilmington. Now, some of the big things that the governor did talk about tonight included changes and possible changes to income tax, sales tax, and severance tax, which all could have major impacts on people living in the valley. And also, Governor Kasich touted a major savings in the rainy day fund and also a balanced budget. But the governor says it's a new day in Ohio and the sun is shining.
Whether we live in Steubenville, whether we live in Youngstown, whether we live in Cleveland, whether we live in Toledo, whether we live in Cincinnati or Columbus, somebody has an opportunity to cash in what they earned. And they want to sell some stock. Consumption taxes. Our philosophy is to bring the top rate down.
And joining me live right now is Valley Leader Senator Joe Schiavone. And we're going to talk a little bit first. Take me through, what was your general response to the governor's State of the State?
Well, I think the governor's a little bit disconnected from reality. He's talking about, giving all this money back to people in taxes. He's only cutting one tax. It's the income tax, but he's raising the sales tax. He's raising the cigarette tax. He's straining local governments and local schools and puts them in such a position where they're going to have levies on the ballot. So you'll see more levies, an increased sales tax, an increased cigarette tax, and you're going to get a little bit back in your income tax. But that's not putting more money in people's pockets, and that's what he spent an hour and 10 minutes talking about. He talked very little about anything except for his whole tax plan.
And one of the things that we were kind of chatting about a little bit ago was the fact that he was talking about how the income taxes and things like that, how that was driving people from Ohio. Before here, I lived in Florida. I know that Florida doesn't have an income tax, but do you actually think that that's the reason why people may be leaving Ohio?
I've never heard it once. I've never had one constituent come into my office and say, I'm moving to a different state because of our income tax rate. He talked about that over and over and saying that we need to keep people. We need to invest here in the communities in Ohio, so that when people have a good job to work, they have a good school to send their kid to, they have a safe neighborhood for their kids to walk down the street. Those are the things that people care about. They're not worried about the income tax rate, especially if you're going to raise all the other ones. So, it was a very long speech. I think that he didn't really get to the nuts and bolts of how we're going to make positive changes in Ohio. He really put a puts public schools in a very tough spot when he talked about, how he's trying to make the investments in public schools. But if you look at the paper, it's just not real. Half the schools are going to lose money. And so the numbers didn't match the facts. And, I just hope that it'll go through the House and go through the Senate, and we can make the necessary changes in order to make the budget stronger.
Definitely. Well, Senator, thanks. It's been a very long day for us. Thanks for joining me out here live.
Thanks, Matt.
And we'll definitely also have more from other Valley leaders, not only throughout the rest of the night, but also through tomorrow. And we'll definitely have more on the rest of the State of the State address coming up later tonight at 11 o'clock and also tomorrow morning on First News.
Wait. That's wrong for you to put words in my mouth, Janet. I never said that. No, I haven't. You show me that. You said it. All right. You're ridiculous. No, you're ridiculous.
Timbers flared at a finance committee meeting in Youngstown Wednesday night.
That is an issue, and it's real. It may not be real to you, but it's real to some of us.
Which vacant properties get the grass cut quickly turned into the topic of race issues in Youngstown.
Even if it's not an issue about race intentionally, but if it can be perceived, and perception is the truth, if it can be perceived as an issue of race, then that's what it is.
Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from.
When you're not at the table, then you become part of the menu. And that's what I feel, and that's what I think, and that has happened in this case.
Councilwoman Janet Tarpley says the issue comes down to predominantly African-American neighborhoods getting its grass cut a lot less than areas with higher percentages of white people living in them. Councilwoman Annie Gillum had similar concerns.
It's just who's doing it and who's been giving the shaft to certain people all along, and I don't want to be shafted again. I want to know how this program is going to work in the beginning.
I think there's perceptions, and that group started out working with one neighborhood, and a lot of people still feel that they focus on one neighborhood.
We all are here in the city of Youngstown, and in order for us to move forward, we can't leave anybody behind.
The heated topic will be brought up again in a special meeting Tuesday night at 5 o'clock at City Hall.
31 yeas, 0 nays. The bill is passed and entitled.
State lawmakers have been working fast to make sure students don't get left behind in the classroom.
Although this is something positive in the short term, it's like putting a piece of duct tape on a pipe that's about to explode.
Valley Senator Joe Schiavone co-sponsored this 6-page bill that protects students who may underperform on the new state testing that started this school year.
We have to make sure that we are actually making those positive changes in order to give our children the best opportunity to be successful.
The bill passed by the Ohio House and Senate would make sure students aren't passed or held back or even denied class credit based on how a student performs on the tests. Youngstown City Schools Deputy Superintendent Doug Hiscox says this bill means lawmakers are listening.
I think it's a good bill. It's something we need. I think school districts will be pleased.
Even though lawmakers and district leaders think this will help some students, they say it may not be a permanent fix for the tests.
It's a very, very slight fix to a major problem.
Not necessarily a safety net for districts because the data will still be reported and be reflected on the state report card.
If the bill is passed into law, it will only protect students for the 2014-2015 school year. In Youngstown, Matt Horn, WKBN 27 First News. Changes to the state income tax. That was just one of the key points Governor John Kasich talked about during his State of the State address.
The most important thing that we can do to plan ahead is to continue strengthening Ohio's economy by further cutting taxes.
The caveat is changes or increases to other taxes like the severance tax. Drastic changes could impact the oil and gas industry.
It's a very complicated issue, and so we're going to look forward to going forward on this issue. And I would tell people the same thing that the oil and gas guy said to me. We understand that we're probably going to have some changes in the severance tax.
Representative Sean O'Brien agrees the severance tax does need looked at, but he's not sure if the governor's idea is the best idea.
We haven't had a big sales tax on the severance for a while, and so that does need to be looked at. Now, does it need to be up to 6% where the governor is putting it? I'm not sure about that. And
the governor also wants to make changes to the sales tax. Representative Michael O'Brien says any increases with sales tax may hurt the Valley because of exemptions on sales tax across the border in Pennsylvania.
With the additional sales tax proposal, what that is going to cause is tax fatigue among the schools, and the county's agencies for their renewal levies.
Most lawmakers agreed the governor's ideas need looked at in depth before any bills are passed into law. In Wilmington, Matt Horn, WKBN 27 First News. Imagine this. You get a minor drug offense, a misdemeanor for having a small amount of marijuana. You go to court, then you lose your driver's license for 6 months. Here's the hook. You will lose your driver's license no matter where the drug offense happens.
And there are prosecutors who often say, Your Honor, I understand that this makes no sense logically, no sense rationally, but we are required to ask for it.
It's part of a federal mandate that's been on the books since 1990. The goal was to curb drug use. 34 states have already gone against the mandate. Ohio is hoping to be the next state to join that list.
You don't want a first-time offender to lose their driver's license over a minor misdemeanor dealing with a drug offense.
Leaders have said they are in support of a license suspension if the drug offense is related to driving.
If someone is convicted of an OVI offense, there's certainly good reason to require that a license be suspended.
The resolution already passed through the Senate. The House will vote on it Tuesday morning. If approved, Governor John Kasich will be urged to send his opposition to the federal government. In Youngstown, Matt Horn, WKBN 27 First News.